Good evening, councillors. You're very warm welcome to you here for this Mid Sussex District Council meeting to be held today, Wednesday, the 25th of January. Very warm welcome. And firstly, I'm just going to read the fire evacuation notice. The building fire alarm signal is a continuous two-tone alarm. On hearing the evacuation alarm, please leave the building by the nearest marked exit route. Follow the green signs to the assembly point, which is the large staff car park opposite the entrance to the building. Anyone who cannot use the stairs will be helped by the officers present after other people have left. Please do not return to the building until it is safe to do so by an authorised officer. The whole of the council site is a no smoking area. Filming from the public gallery is permitted, but members must refrain from filming within the council chamber so as not to distract the meeting. Please remember that mobile phones must be switched to silent. Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to announce that unfortunately Councillor Coote, accompanied by Councillor Webb, have had a puncture on the way to the council meeting. So in his absence, I would like to ask Councillor Peacock to be the Vice Chairman for the evening. Is that agreed? Agreed. Councillor Peacock, would you join me, please? When you're ready, Councillor Peacock, can I ask you to do the opening prayer? Thank you.
O Lord, grant us courage to strive for what is right and good, courtesy to listen to those of different opinion, strengthen us through difficulties and pressures, and guide us in our deliberations so that we may act in the interest of all in our district, to the glory of your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Moving on to item 2, to receive questions from members of the public pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 9. I have none. So moving on to item 3, to confirm the minutes of the meeting of Council held on the 7th of December 2022, pages 5 to 12 of your agenda Council papers. I'm going to ask, going straight to the vote, may I ask members to vote using the microphone touch screen? And please, if you could touch it quite firmly, and then the staff won't have to come round and ask you to do that. Would you please vote now? Voting is completed. The result of the numbers are being displayed, and I'll ask Kevin Toogood to read the result.
Thank you, Chairman. So 36 members voted in favour. There were no votes against, with 4 abstentions, so that vote is carried.
Thank you. Moving on now to item 4, to receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. Members wishing to indicate if they wish to speak by pressing the button under their name on the microphone. Councillor Hillier.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I shall be referring to West Sussex County Council, of whom I'm a member, in my Cabinet Members' report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hillier. I have no other councillor wishing to speak. Thank you very much. So I'm going to move on to item 5, to consider any items of the chairman of the council agrees to take as urgent business. I have none. Item 6, the chairman's announcement. My recent engagements of the chairman and of the vice chairman are listed on the council's website. I'm moving on now to item 7, the polling districts and polling places for 2023, pages 13 to 18 in your agenda papers. This item is proposed by Councillor Webster and seconded by Councillor Ash-Edwards. Councillor Webster.
Thank you, Chairman. The report that members have before them sets out the Council's selection of polling places, which is situated outside the District Council wards for all electoral events in 2023. And the report is self-explanatory, so I don't propose to say anything further. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion is seconded by Councillor Ash-Edwards. Do you wish to speak now or reserve your right?
Reserve my right, Mr.
Thank you. Has any member got any question or comments that they wish to make on this item? Please indicate, if so, by microphone button. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. Polling stations outside the polling area. I want to speak about the new Walstead Parish polling ward, which has been moved from Linfield to Linfield Rural Parish in the local government boundary review. Recommendation 6H on page 14. This is Ward GCB, Linfield Rural, Walstead Ward, as I said, using the Evangelical Free Church in Challoner Road, Linfield, where parking spaces are as rare as hen's teeth. From the Langmore Lane development off Grablie Lane, which has been completed over the last 2 years, it's estimated to get there is a 25-minute walk to the Evangelical Free Church, 5 minutes by cycle or 3 minutes by car, and then goodness knows how much time to find a parking place. Based on previous voter turnout, that amounts to 400 two-way car journeys, i.e. 800 additional vehicle movements in the centre of Linfield on polling day. And anybody who goes through Linfield will know it's pretty cramped as it is at the moment, every day. I imagine hardly anyone will walk. I'm not really aware of any consultation or improvements to encourage cycling in Linfield Parish. So it's hardly surprising that most of the people will drive. Off-street parking in Linfield Village Centre has been made even more difficult due to dedicating places for, let's say, they're called fast, but I call them slow, 7 kilowatt electric vehicle chargers, having been installed in the small shopping car park in Denman Lane. With respect to item 6H on page 14, I want to move an amendment. Actually, it's more of an addition, but thank you. Thank you. May I provide that to the Chair, just to make it clear, or try and make it clear. The amendment asks Head of Democratic Services and Elections to investigate the suitability of Linfield Rural Parish Office as a polling station for polling district GCB, and hence relocate this polling station to a location that does not require of full council approval. So what I'm saying is really an addition to the motion that's before us. It's just a course of action that I'd request is taken by the head of Democratic Services and Elections. Thank you.
See if there's a second. Mind, or we'll just have to think about it.
Thank you, councillor.
Do you want to see if there's a seconder?
Do you have a seconder for your motion? Councillor Eaves.
If I may just say something, could you just give us a few moments just to read the wording, and if we just continue with the debate and we'll be able to come back to you on that, okay?
I'd like to invite councillor Gibson to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I've got a similar point to make about Trinity Church, which, excellent venue though it is outside both Imberhorn wards, and it is a long way from, it's at one end of the ward, and it will be a long way from the people who are, for instance, effectively in Felbridge. The road system, I think everyone can agree that the road system down the A22 is a nightmare, and it's, in my view, it's a poor selection. What I would like to ask is that there is some analysis done by Democratic Services in order to look at whether or not this suppressed voter participation in the, particularly in the Felbridge area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it all right if I say something? Is it okay if I say something?
Yes, please. I'm just going to ask
Okay,
Chief
thanks.
Executive.
Thanks for those contributions. I think it would have been helpful to have known of this amendment before the meeting, because my colleagues in the elections team have done an enormous amount of work to research all the polling places that we need for this big and complicated election. And of course, you know, finding suitable polling places is a challenge. Particularly with the complexity we've got, which is explained in the paper. So it's difficult at this stage. I don't feel super confident at this stage about moving away from these recommendations, because I think probably all the alternatives have been looked at. So as your returning officer, my advice would be to continue with these polling places as recommended to you. Thank you.
Councillor Ash-Edwards, please.
Thank you, Chairman. May I just offer some observations, given it is currently my ward, and so I'm familiar with the geography that Councillor Brown is referring to. I agree with the Chief Executive's comment around, you know, the availability and knowing that in advance of polling stations. It's very difficult for members to make decisions about polling stations until work has been done about whether it's even available or suitable, disabled access, etc. But just in terms of the location, I hear the criticisms that Councillor Brown raises and issues he raises around the current polling station, and I'd certainly accept that it's not ideal as a location, but it is the one that voters are used to going to, and that consistency of polling station is always relevant. What I would just also observe, Chairman, is in terms of distance, actually I haven't done an exact calculation, but looking at the map and from my own knowledge, I would say that the location that Councillor Brown has suggested is probably about the same distance away from the Langmoor Lane development that is cited as the polling station that's currently in place. So we're not talking about, you know, huge differences in terms of timescales, but I think one of the, and I acknowledge that, you know, there are always pros and cons with polling stations, you know, very few are perfect, that what the rural parish council's location probably improves in terms of parking, it is less attractive for in terms of being able to walk. So it's down East Mascall's Lane. Anyone familiar with East Mascall's Lane will know that it does not have a great pavement. You know, you are basically on a track at the side of the road at that point of the road, and I wouldn't be liking to encourage members of the public to be walking, particularly in an evening, to a polling station in that location, compared to going into Linfield Village, where actually you are on proper pavements, lit roads, etc., etc. So I would just share some caution about what has been suggested.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, in view of what has been said, do you still wish to proceed with the motion?
Thank you, Chair. I would rather proceed with, I understand what the returning officer is saying. In fact, what I'm seeking is it doesn't negate anything that this council may decide in terms of this motion, because it's just an added thing asking the, don't forget, it was very short notice. We've only had a week to look at this, and I was quite surprised actually to see it, because it's not my ward at the moment, but it will be my ward if I'm re-elected next time, because it's been moved into Linfield Rural, which I'm in. So I've done a bit of research, and you know, I actually went and walked around and had a look to understand what was going
I appreciate that. I'm just asking, do you wish to proceed with the motion?
Oh, yes, of course. That's my. Thank you.
We will have to go to a vote on the. Before we do that, Councillor Webster, do you wish to speak?
No.
No. Okay. We need to. Councillor Bates, I'm sorry. Did you wish to speak on this point?
Yes, Chairman. I just wanted really a point of request on item 11. It says it's relocating in Haywards Heath. The United Reformed Church has become unsuitable, and it's going to be moved to the Methodist Church. Now, I think that people get used to going to voting places. Will we be actually putting up some decent signage at the previous voting station to redirect people to the new voting place? Can I make that request, rather than on the day people are looking around?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Bates. Those comments are noted, and there is assistance for voters on the poll card as well.
Right, I'm now going to revert to the motion that has been put forward by Councillor Brown. I will read it for the benefit of the councillors. Councillor Brown moves an amendment to ask Head of Democratic Services and Elections to investigate the suitability of Linfield Rural Parish Office as a polling station for polling district GCB, and hence relocate this polling station to a location that does not require full council's approval. May I ask councillors to vote on that motion, please? I apologise. Do you wish to speak?
Could I
Just before we vote, yes.
Sorry to delay things, Madam Chair. I wonder whether it would be helpful if we took out 7H and 7F and had a split vote on those two, because everybody agrees with all the others, and that might expedite things, and then we could refer the other two to the officers to sort out. I would just say that it's good to have the polling station in the ward. There is a pavement along Langmore Lane, and the thing about Langmore Lane is you can park there, which you can't do in Lindfield with any ease. That's the problem. And of course, it's easier to cycle there. So I very much support Councillor Brown's point.
I am going to proceed to put this, the motion that I read, to the vote, please. Can councillors vote now? The result is now closed, and Kevin, would you kindly read the result, please?
Thank you, Chairman. The votes are as follows. In favour of the amendment, 12, against the amendment, 22, with 6 abstentions. So the amendment is not carried.
Thank you. I'm going to move back to the agenda, and Councillor Ash Edwards, do you wish to speak?
Nothing further to add, Chairman, so we move forward.
Okay. We're going to state the recommendations being voted on for the benefit of members and viewers and listeners. The full recommendation is on page 13 to 14, not listed in 4 here due to its length. The polling station and the polling places for all polling districts to be defined as the entire district council ward in which the polling district is situated, with the 13 exceptions as detailed in the report. Could members please vote on this item using the microphone touch screen now? The voting is now closed, and ask Kevin if he'd be good enough to read the result numbers.
Thank you, Chairman. That the vote is 35 in favour of the motion, 3 against and 2 abstentions, so the motion is carried.
Thank you. I'm now moving on to item 8, the appointment of representatives to the Independent Remuneration Panel from the 1st of July 2023, which is pages 19 to 22 in your papers. This item is proposed by Councillor Webster and seconded by Councillor Ash Edwards. Councillor Webster, would you like to speak on this item?
Thank you, Chairman. The council is required by law to establish a panel of at least 3 of at least 3 members, and this paper is setting out the process to undertake that action in the coming months. And again, it's very clearly laid out in the paper, so I don't propose to say any more than that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This item is seconded by Councillor Ash Edwards. Do you wish to speak now or reserve your right?
Reserve my right in case needed.
Right, but I'd like to take any questions or comments from councillors. If you wish to speak, please indicate by your microphone button. I have none. So, Councillor Ash Edwards, do you wish to speak? Right. So I'm going to proceed to the full recommendation, which is on page 19. The council is recommended to 1. Agree the proposed approach to appoint the new independent remuneration panel, and 2. Appoint a panel of 3 members, being the leader, cabinet member for community, and the leader of the largest minority party, to interview candidates and recommend 3 persons to form the new independent remuneration panel for a 4-year term commencing the 1st of July 2023. Could members please vote using your microphone touch screen on this item, please, now. Voting is now closed. I ask Kevin to read the result numbers from the TV screen.
Thank you, Chairman. That vote is carried unanimously in favour of the motion.
Thank you very much. We're moving swiftly on to item 9, to receive the leader's report. Members, could we remember that so that all who wish to do so have adequate opportunity to pose a question and not a statement, please. I ask for your cooperation in putting no more than 3 questions per member on each of the following cabinet members' report. Firstly, I'd like to invite Councillor Ash Edwards to provide the leader's report.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Good evening. Members will be aware that I shared last week the news that our Levelling Up Fund bid for Burgess Hill had not been selected by government, and that was clearly very disappointing, particularly given the previously very positive feedback and encouragement we had received from government, that members will be aware that nationally there were over 500 bids made by councils and about 111 successful, so and of which only 11 were in the South East. Chairman, it's clear that the Levelling Up Fund isn't the answer to unlocking the challenge of Burgess Hill Town Centre redevelopment, and so we will now move forward to build on the work that was already in place and being undertaken prior to the Levelling Up Fund decision to look at alternative options. And we'll be doing that with our new external advisory team. What I would say, Chairman, is that there are no easy solutions. If there were, they would have been exercised, but we remain committed to delivery of town centre regeneration in Burgess Hill, and we'll explore all possible options to ensure that can move forward as soon as the market conditions allow. Chairman, in relation to the budget and corporate plan for the coming financial year, I'd like to thank members of the Scrutiny Committee who gave that their consideration a couple of weeks ago and provided unanimous support at that meeting to the budget proposals. I think it is an important budget for us that we'll be discussing in our coming meetings. For the first time since the pandemic, we are not needing to make use of our reserves. That is a hard fought on one position, but I think a really important one to improve this council's financial position further. And as a result of the decisions we've taken over recent times, we are not needing to propose that we go to the increased council tax cap that has been set by government. And alongside that, Chairman, the budget does propose the expansion of a number of services, and just to highlight in particular the significant expansion of our popular garden waste collection service, as well as the expansion of the bulky waste service, as well, amongst many other projects moving forward in that budget. So I look forward to discussing that further at our subsequent meetings, but I think an important step forward for us in terms of our ongoing careful management of our budgets. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Leader. I am now going to take members' questions, and please not questions, not comment. And could I remind members that they have no right of response after the Leader has answered. I see Councillor Eggleston wishes to ask a question.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And not surprisingly, the questions will be in relation to the Levelling Up Fund bid. Members may well recall that on the 3rd of November 2021, I asked the Leader 9 questions in relation to the Levelling Up Fund. Be pleased that I'm going to stick to the maximum 3. But one of them was, whilst we all want to remain positive and optimistic, there is a probability that this element of the master plan will not be deliverable. Accordingly, has there been any contingency planning or discussions within MSDC or with New River which would constitute a deliverable and acceptable plan B? And in the press release, the District Council said this year, on being notified that the bid was unsuccessful, that we have continued to work with the shopping centre owners to explore ways to improve viability, etc., and to bring a development forward. So contingency planning was taking place during the consideration of our second bid. So I wonder, firstly, what changed between my question in 2021 and the waiting for the outcome of the bid in 2022, which allowed that planning to take place. That's question one. Question two, I'm on board with the Leader when we say we need a plan B at pace. I've been saying that, and residents have been saying that at some time, and we need to work with key partners, and it's crucial, and I'm sure the Leader will agree with me, that this plan B isn't a top-down imposed on the town, but it engages with the town. So I'd like the Leader to confirm who those key partners will be, and when we talk about plan B at pace, are we talking about spades in the ground in the current calendar year? And my third question, just finally, is of course in the grand scheme that was presented and went through planning initially in 2020 16, the £65 million regeneration, one of the sacrifices, one of the losses that Burgess Hill suffered was the closure and subsequent demolition of the Martlets Hall. And my third question is, can we have it back, please?
Councillor Edwards.
Thank you very much, Chairman. So in responding to Councillor Eggleston's questions, so firstly, in terms of contingency, I'll say what I've said previously, which is that if you have a shovel-ready alternative plan, you cannot bid for levelling up funding. And the reason why you're bidding for levelling up funding is because there isn't a market deliverable scheme. Those things are facts by their very nature. But of course, we have been working, as members would expect us to, with New River, with our advisors, to look at what the options might be. And as I said, there are no quick fixes, there are no easy solutions, but we have been undertaking that work and we will continue to do so. In relation to I think Councillor Eggleston's referring to the summit that I'm going to bring together. I'll be setting out invites to that very shortly. And I hear his point around kind of wider community engagement. And I would just make the point that there is a planning commission that has had significant community engagement, and we do need to focus on what is deliverable within that planning permission, certainly if we want it in the short term. Councillor Eggleston will know that nobody can make promises about timescales because there is clearly work we need to do to try and find a way through the viability issues. If there were quick fixes, as I said, they would have already been done. And the third question, I think Councillor Eggleston full well knows the answer to it, and I wish him well in delivering his business case for the beehive.
Thank you very much. I'm going to move on. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I offer my sympathies to the leader on the outcome of the levelling up bids. For many years, I've looked at the sort of beauty parade which is done by Innovate UK for technology bids, and I have to say an awful lot of good ideas, good innovative ideas, fall by the wayside within that process. I note that I've seen a figure of £25 million, which across all councils in preparing these bids, and I think that is to a large extent a terrible waste of money. However, I want to take him to a levelling up activity which is needed across this district between the north and the south. Ironically, it also is a balance between the north and the south in that the north is deficient. If he's read the retail study, he'll see that my village of Crawley Down is the least favourable in terms of the retail outlets. It is very much an opportunity for economic potential which is not being taken. And I just wanted to ask him, what is he doing to take forward the retail study, which is of course an underpinning document of the district plan?
Councillor Edwards.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, the point of retail studies is that they inform decisions on planning proposals as they come forward. This council is not, as I've said before, is not a developer of shopping. We are the planning authority, and we need to respond to what the market is able to bring forward, and will be informed by that. But obviously, very happy to listen to any individual proposals that Councillor Gibson has.
Thank you. I'm now going to ask Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to agree with Councillor Gibson about the awful waste of money on submitting bids into the Levelling Up Fund, and for that matter, investment zones in the autumn. I'd like to ask the leader, would he consider writing to the Secretary of State for Levelling Up, setting out what those costs have been and the impact of what that has been on officers at this council who work very hard with scarce resources? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think what I'd say is that this council will bid at all reasonable opportunities for funding that is made available. And sometimes we'll be successful. We've got a good track record actually of being successful, and sometimes we won't be. And there are costs inevitable in doing that. And if you look over time at the amount of money the council has spent on preparing bids versus the many tens of millions of pounds worth of investment brought in, the Mid Sussex taxpayer is very much on the right side of that deal, very much so. And I think it's important to make that clear. But I think in the spirit of making good use of public resources, I'm not going to take up Councillor Bennett's invitation to write more letters that will need more responses, but not really move us forward.
Thank you, Councillor Ash-Edwards. I'm now going to invite Simon Hicks to ask his question.
Thank you, Chairman. Could I ask the leader, relating to his press release about the disappointing result of the Levelling Up Fund, he's calling for a summit of key stakeholders. Can he confirm that representatives from Burgess Hill Town Council will be invited to that summit and a possible timescale for it to take place?
Councillor Ash-Edwards.
Thank you, Chairman. As I said, I'll set out timescales and invitations in due course. We're looking at diary availability at the moment, and of course, be happy to listen to any ideas that the Town Council wants to put forward.
Thank you, Councillor Ash-Edwards. I have no further questions for the leader, so I'm now going to move on to item 10, the reports of the Cabinet members, including questions pursuant to Council Procedure Rule number 10.1. Firstly, I'm going to the Deputy Leader, Councillor John Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. The leader's already referred to the potential expansion and improvements to some of our waste services, but in terms of the food waste trial, that continues, and members may well have seen our post last week informing residents that in the first 3 months we've collected over 120,000 kilos of food waste. The next actions are for a survey to be undertaken in February and March, which will be a mix of in-person and online surveys to understand how participants have found the trial, and we'll also be undertaking waste composition analysis to understand the level of reduction of food waste from the black bin collections. From a landscapes perspective, work on the Hollands Way play area in East Grinstead is scheduled to commence in early February, and ward councillors will receive confirmation as soon as the date is confirmed, along with the final design. Equipment has also been selected for the Dolphin play area in Haywards Heath, and quotes on the installation work are currently being sought. In terms of the wider park master plans, we're developing an engagement hub which will be launched shortly. I've seen the draft and it looks really good, and this will allow residents to see the progress being made on each of our parks being master planned, as well as upcoming events where they can engage with officers. There will be a series of engagement events in February and March, and again, relevant ward members will receive details of such events, which will also be advertised on social media and in our parks themselves. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Belsey. Councillor Henwood, do you wish to ask a question?
Yes, please. Is the food waste still being transported outside the district? And if it is, what are the future plans for handling it and decomposing it, biodigesting in our district? Thank you.
Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, it is being taken out of the district and indeed out of the county to Basingstoke, as you're aware. That has been the plan that was agreed with West Sussex. West Sussex are currently unable to handle the food waste collected. We continue to seek to work with West Sussex to encourage and inspire them to build a digester, etc., on site that will allow us to process the gas and the residual waste. And indeed, we will be making representations to West Sussex again this week through their budgetary process to try to seek that to happen. But we know that also requires some of the other districts and districts and boroughs within West Sussex to also join us in our desire to see the food waste progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Belsey. Councillor Whitaker.
Thank you, I'd like to thank Councillor Belsey for his attendance at the recent East Grinstead Sports Council meeting, which was record attendance of over 35 members. And I know in his work he is striving to spread the knowledge and expertise across the whole district, particularly with Haywards Heath, which I think the meeting's in a couple of weeks' time, and also with Burgess Hill. And just wondered if he has any updates on the Centre for Outdoor Sport and any discussions with relevant sports stakeholders across the district.
Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Whittaker, for the question. So the process with the Centre for Outdoor Sports, we've met with many of the local sports clubs within Burgess Hill and the surrounding area. That once we haven't met in person, we've also tried to speak to and engage with online. The Centre for Outdoor Sports represents a great opportunity to build modern sporting facilities in Burgess Hill, and we know the main plank of those is designed to be the top level spec football and rugby pitches. The challenge we have at the moment is that costs are challenging to manage, and trying to balance the demands and desires, aspirations of our sports clubs with the funds that we have available and a challenging economy. So we are redoubling our efforts to see what might be achievable, and I hope that we will be able to come back to members and council in the not too distant future once we've been able to arrange that. But I understand that obviously there's massive potential for the site. It's just trying to balance that with what we can afford. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Belsey. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I appreciate that at the moment the dog bin collection service is running at capacity, but with all the housing going on being built in Burgess Hill, are there any plans to extend that service? Because there are new developments in Copthorne that have asked us that if they can have new bins, and at the moment they're being told no.
Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. I know that dog bins is very people can be very passionate about the state of dog bins and the impact that has on our sort of landscapes. If it's all right with you, Councillor Phillips, can I come back to you on that? I know that it is quite full, and it does also depend. I've had lots of discussions with Councillor Clark and others as well as to when we talk about developments, whether they're in adopted areas or not, or whether they're the responsibility of the actual developer themselves, because we normally make agreements with them as part of the planning application. So perhaps if we could take that offline and discuss individual specifics, we can see where we can get to. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Belsey. Councillor Andrew Lee.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So I think the food waste is a terrific initiative, and we've been lucky enough, in fact, to have one of the bins ourselves. Responding to the comment earlier about the food waste being taken out of the district, which is obviously important because you've got the embodied energy of transporting it and the difficulties in getting county to provide the disposal facilities. I wonder if the Cabinet member and officers would also consider the options of perhaps having a more local, smaller scale food waste disposal, because I believe it is now possible to have smaller digesters that could be more local. Would he consider that option? Thank you.
Councillor Belsey.
Thank you, Chairman. Certainly as part of the wider discussion with West Sussex, and not yet having a decision from West Sussex, which partly does depend on government guidance as to whether there'll be funding given to West Sussex to be able to fund such digester, etc. As part of that, I have asked if officers will also consider what the cost would be to ourselves if we were to take something forward. And can I just highlight as well, just obviously appreciate the carbon footprint of moving waste out of the district. And again, that is something that we do take into account in our deliberations, but in ongoing discussions with Serco regarding the vehicle fleet. And again, that's a balance between the age of the fleet, where they are in the contract, etc. But at an appropriate time, we will certainly be giving we'll be encouraging further discussions with Serco as to how we might be able to improve that footprint in terms of the vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson. please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It's probably more of a question at scrutiny committee level, but I'm intrigued to know that if you take the 120,000 and if you do we for the comparable period know what came in the landfill bins, and did we benchmark it against what we would have expected in the first place, just so we can look at whether or not we're forcing things up. And if you'll permit me an observation, Madam Chairman, I'm not sure what 120,000 tonnes of 120,000 kilograms of food waste actually says. I mean, surely that is an enormous waste, and it's something which we should be looking at in, sort of at the end of this, in order to say how can we drive that figure down.
Councillor Bell, did you wish to respond?
Thank you, Chairman. It did say in the press release what that actually represents. It's a huge amount of energy that can be created from it. In terms of, I think it certainly powers the town's televisions for a good many thousands and thousands of hours. But I did try to highlight earlier that we are undertaking waste composition analysis over the next couple of months, and so if Councillor Gibson will bear with, then hopefully in the next couple of months we will be able to compare residues from before and after the trial stage and see what improvements that's resulted in.
Thank you, Councillor Belsey. I have no further questions for you, so I'm going to move on to the Cabinet Member for Economic Growth and Net Zero, Councillor Steve Hillier, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. As members may recall, one of the economic priorities for this council, and indeed the County Council, is to support and encourage our businesses to embrace the opportunities that digital infrastructure is bringing. To that end, a programme has now officially been launched as Digital Futures West Sussex, and 3 county-wide ambassadors have been selected to support delivery of the programme. And by the way, I'm delighted to congratulate Barney Durrant of East Grinstead-based Bluebell Digital for being selected as one of them. Members will also be aware that the excellent Burgess Hill Growth Programme has been moving ahead, but also of the public disquiet and at times misinformation that is rife on social media at the moment. Whilst the current works are around the highways infrastructure and being led upon by West Sussex County Council, our officers, Member of Parliament and myself have been heavily involved in making representations on behalf of the community to the County Council, particularly around improving the effectiveness of their communications. I'm glad to say that over the last couple of weeks, county officers appear to have been very diligent in this regard. I and others have also expressed concern at a few aspects of the detail, but only some, and with the benefit of hindsight, as neither I nor as any local members, as far as I know, are highways engineering experts. I know that some of these concerns are being looked at, but I personally stand behind the scheme as a whole. It is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to modernise the infrastructure, and the wider business community are very excited about its potential and how it will support all of our inspirations for more local quality jobs. However, it has no doubt caused considerable disruption, and I do apologise sincerely to all of those residents that have been hugely inconvenienced, particularly earlier in the month. And similarly to the local small businesses in the town centre who've been commendably stoic and just frustrated at the lack of information. Infrastructure projects of this size and complexity, alas, always come with a measure of frustrating disruption, as many of us who use the motorway network, for example, will know. Nonetheless, my apology is sincere, and I am very confident that the scheme will prove successful when it has had time to bed in and people are used to how it works and appropriate changes have been made. Moving on to the low carbon support for SMEs, again being led by West Sussex, I'm glad to report that suppliers have been successfully appointed to deliver this programme, which will commence delivery from March. And finally, excuse me, my congratulations to the Burgess Hill Business Parks Association for their very successful expo last Friday, which myself, our economic team and many businesses attended. There seemed to be unanimous agreement that it had been a success and of benefit not just to Burgess Hill, but the district's wider business community. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Hillier. Councillor Eggleston, you have a question from Councillor Hillier.
Yes, thank you, Chairman, and it does concern place and connectivity. I always appreciate it when people apologise. I think it's a very good gesture when people do that. publicly, and I think it shows courage to do it. So I thank you for that. But there's always a bar to some of this. I apologise as well. And you are one of the lead members of the steering group for place and connectivity. And I would like to express my disappointment as also a member of the steering group and a local member for the area that there wasn't one occasion throughout this hiatus that you, as a leading member of the steering group, reached out to other members of the steering group to try and help us as local members and as residents to navigate yes, we accept that infrastructure projects through a main arterial route are disruptive, but town centre trade has cratered through it, and the impact on the lives of residents has been awful. Unimaginably awful. And yes, we will recover, but we need to recognise that. And so I'd just like you to reflect on the fact that as
Councillor
in your leadership role,
have you got a question?
A leadership role that you didn't reach out to us, and what you learned from that, and how in future when we go navigate these schemes, what you will do differently to ensure that steering group members and local members are on that journey and are have that connection with you as a lead member and officers to ensure that dialogue is handled speedily and appropriately and well, because believe me, in this instance, at a variety of levels, it wasn't.
Councillor Hillier, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for your kind words at the beginning. And your challenge is a fair one. I have reflected myself upon this and what we could and should have done differently. Just to kind of explain to members how the governance of this works. Obviously you've got the local economic partnership, and then there's the Economic Growth Board, which is the county council leader, the leaders of all the districts and boroughs, and etc. And they consider the programme. Then there is the local members steering group, which is for local members, i.e. councillors like Councillor Eggleston, to comment on the detailed proposals. And since last June, as we've only had one meeting, I have chaired that. The role of that steering group is to look at what's being proposed. We officers will provide us with a list of options, and for example in June, the works that are in progress have already been discussed and agreed in detail by members of that steering group. So we were looking to, if you recall, it was a long time ago now, prioritise what might be coming down the line in stage 2. And so there isn't really, to my knowledge, really the role of the steering group and myself as chair to kind of be dealing and enter into that communications morass. It was my role, I felt, and why we did that along with officers, to go to county council going, hey, you have got to make a better effort of communicating information to all of the local partners, etc. So I will partly accept, and I have addressed it. I think on reflection we did the right thing, but you could be right, maybe I could have done more. And also, just to, in relation to that steering group, there is no date set for the next meeting. But as far as I understand it, I think at the end of this month, the Growth Board are going to be sitting to look at all the projects in phase 2, and out of that will obviously come a paper, and I have made it clear to officers that I expect our steering group to meet before PERDA commence in April, so that we can give our feedback on those before they start implementation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hillier. Councillor Eves.
Thank you, Chair. If I could ask Councillor Hillier on the same subject, two things really. It has been very distressing in Burgess Hill, this whole upheaval. How does he reconcile the secretive nature of that steering group with the principle of open government and the fact that it hardly ever meets, apparently hasn't met for a year? And my second question is, if you look at gear change, there are 9 principles of how to design sustainable travel and cycle paths, and the 9th one is, routes should be designed only by those who have experienced the road on a cycle. Can you tell us how many members of the steering group actually ride a bike? Thank you.
Councillor Hillier.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. If I forget all of those questions, please do come back to me. It isn't secretive, it's a steering group. And all of the information, the detailed information about this, and this is one of the bits of misinformation that's been going around locally, oh, it's secretive, etc. There is a website called burgesshill.net, and on that website, the detailed plans and the drawings for the works that have been going on have been up there. I couldn't tell you how long, but I would estimate for over a year. So it is not secretive. There is a laid out and appropriate and proper governance that I was referring to in my answer to Councillor Eggleston. So I reject that utterly. And as I said again in my answer to Councillor Eggleston, the steering group last met in June, which is a lot less than a year ago by my calculations. And I've indicated when it's next going to meet again. And it is there to consider detailed proposals that come down to the Growth Board. It does not meet just for the sake of it. It has a structure and a form. And in relation to the question about the cycle group, let's remember what our role as members are. We are not the engineers, okay? Now, I would hope and expect that the people who come up with the plans and bring them to councillors at the Growth Board, at the steering group, at Burgess Hill Town Council Planning Commission, who considered this matter and provided their response in June 2020. It is the experts' job, and I would expect them to have the expertise that you're talking about in terms of cycling the route. Our job as councillors is to challenge that as best we can, to use what information that we have and satisfy ourselves to the best of our abilities as non-experts that they have done the job properly. I hope that's answered all your questions, Madam Chairman. I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, Councillor Hillier. Councillor Cornish.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, my question also relates to the placing connectivity to Councillor Hillier. The residents of St Andrews are contacting me already, bracing themselves for the next round of work around Wivelsfield Station. And there are already concerns following the work in the town centre. And I think they seek assurance and they seek clearer communication and more timely communication on anything that may impact on that journey, particularly around the school. And I think there are a number of things that have come up as a councillor for that ward in terms of what other roadworks are going on at around the similar time, not necessarily in that area, but on the network that feed in on the arterial roads that feed into that. Because there seems to be, in the past, so many occasions where roadworks and other activities in the road that cause utter chaos, really, around the town. And we just need to see a joined-up way of thinking to manage the transport better when such big projects like this are happening. So I think the residents of that area, particularly around the station, need reassurance, extra reassurance, that it will go well and that it will be communicated clearly, especially those small shops around that will be massively impacted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cornish. Councillor Hillier.
Not at all. Thank you, and thank you for the question. And the concern is understandable. In relation to the communications, I think those responsible for those have got it very, very clear in their heads that the communications have to be effective. And I would hope that would include the shops, but I've made a note ensure to make sure that that happens as well. In relation to the detailed works, I'm very happy to talk with you about them. Obviously, the detailed information, as I said, is available on burgesshill.net. So if you've seen aspects of the plans or the construction programme that concern you, please do let me know. I'd be very happy to discuss it. And in relation to the network management, this is a dark art. You and residents, particularly those who participate on social media sites, won't believe this, but actually it is coordinated. So the County Council, as the Highways Authority, has a statutory duty to allow all the utilities access to the network, etc. And what they try and do is manage it. So quite often a utility will be forced to wait 6, 9, 18 months, sometimes up to 2 years, to get access to a road to do some, say, new installation, because they've looked at it and gone, no, because there's so much else going on, the effect of adding one more into it will cause chaos. What does tend to throw it into chaos is when you get an emergency pipe burst or a power line down. The county council has no choice but to provide road, to allow them to do the works on the road. And it's quite often that, and certainly we've seen it in Hayward Heath on numerous occasions, it's that throws the whole system into chaos and causes all the aggravation and frustration that public and us lucky councillors endure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hicks.
Yes, apologies to question you on the same subject. Thank you for your candour so far. You mentioned phase 2 of the improvements, which of course the details aren't on the website of that, as far as I'm aware. And I just wonder what public consultation there might be regarding those, and particularly thinking in terms of local residents and what their priorities are. We would appreciate some additional communication right at the start of the process, so some of these problems can be ironed out before they actually end up on the roads. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hicks. Councillor Hillier.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you again for the question, Councillor Hicks. Though the details won't be out, so as I explained earlier, the Growth Board, I believe, is meeting at the end of January, which will then, this is the big leader one, etc., that doesn't involve me, and they will look at the funding available, and at the last meeting of our group, we indicated what we felt the priorities, and this is obviously with the Burgess Hill Town Council and other interested parties, what we felt the priorities for that growth, for that phase 2 should be. Growth Board will be considering that and look at the funds available and come back going, okay, here's what we're doing, and we'll start to produce the detail. At that point, the consultation will start. It almost certainly won't be until back end of May, because obviously we've got electoral purdah coming up, and that will follow the usual consultation. So I would imagine the town council are involved as the planning authority. And obviously at the planning stage, that's when the public get to have their say. Yeah, I think that's probably everything I need to say. And I think that's answered your question, isn't it?
Thank you, Councillor Hillier. Councillor Henwood.
Thank you. Burgess Hill Town Council Planning Committee gave very serious consideration to the plans around the train station, Burgess Hill and Wivelsfield. We gave very serious consideration, looked at the diagrams, etc. It appeared to us that most of our recommendations were absolutely ignored. It was a tick box exercise. Given this, I wonder if in the future, although there are experts, highway experts, more consideration might be given to those who live, cycle, walk in the area, to their responses and their opinions. That's what I would ask you to do for future, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I should say that I'm County Councillor for Inverdown. The county draft plan and budget includes a commitment to reviewing and renewing the growth plans. There are 7 growth plans across the county, 1 for each district. To what extent does this council consider alternative options to growth plan that we've currently got in progressing when the reviews like that are taken forward? Thank you.
Councillor Hillier.
Thank you for the question. I'll have to say that one's above my pay grade. So I couldn't answer it. Yeah. And I imagine what is proposed and what's in the programme is probably, prior to my being involved, has probably gone through this council's processes and planning. So I'm afraid that's the best I can do in that answer.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hillier. I'm now going to move on to the Cabinet Member for Community, Councillor Webster. Please remain seated, Councillor Webster.
Thank you, Chairman. At the last council meeting, Councillor Whitaker asked about the possibility of the ICS visiting to attend a training session for councillors. And the ICS is unable to fulfil this request, but I do want to remind councillors that the ICS representatives did attend the Mid Sussex Partnership Board recently, and information should therefore filter out via town and parish elected representatives. But I also refer councillors to the ICS website, www.sussex.ics.nhs.uk, where its priorities and programmes for health and care are very clearly stated at a strategic level. And here follows a tick box list of things that are happening or have happened. And the first one is that the updated gambling policy came into effect on the 1st of January, and that was agreed by Scrutiny Committee a little while ago. There will be a visit by the first group of councillors on the list to the Sussex Police Command and Control Centre. That's happening on Friday. And just for the reassurance of all those who indicated an interest in that visit, I compiled the list according to the date and the time that I received people's requests, because I did have a feeling that there would be some disappointment along the way. So those people who are on the list, and I will reassure everybody who responded that they are on the list, you will be invited to a visit of the Command and Control Centre. The tendering process for the Council's public health funeral provision has been completed. The tenders were assessed for quality and price, as is the usual practice, and the contract is now in place. A trade request to review the taxi licensing policy criteria for the age of vehicles from 10 years to 12 years will go before scrutiny on the 1st of February. And I look forward, as always, to hearing the committee's comments on extending the age of taxi vehicles. And there was an interesting discussion in that regard on the BBC today, which, as I say, was very interesting. The Hackney Carriage Unmet Demand Survey has been completed, and that report will be going to the Licensing Committee on the 8th of February for their consideration. And I do want to just take the opportunity of thanking the Licensing Committee members who have made themselves available for quite a number of ad hoc licensing panel meetings in the last few weeks. It seems there are a lot of liquor establishments wanting to re-establish business in the district following COVID. And Chairman, finally, I want to just remind colleagues, officers and elected members of Holocaust Memorial Day on Friday the 27th. And I ask that you please take time to reflect on conflicts past and present around the world and the impact that they have on people, families, communities, society. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Webster. I'm now going to proceed to ask the Cabinet Member for Leisure and Parking, Councillor Ruth Demir, to provide your report. Thank you.
Madam Chairman. I will be very brief. I was hoping I'd sound dark and mysterious, but I think I just sound like an elephant with his trunk tied. So bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, on our charging points, 60 are now active across the district, which means we have activated 91% of our priority sites. Vicarage Road chargers went live just before Christmas, and the reinstatement of chargers at Orion Car Park are underway and should be live by the end of January. The Cypress Road EVs, as we all know and I've reported before, are delayed due to the lease, but we are targeting February for a resolution of that. Those planned for Mount Noddy and the Wilderness in Lindfield are in the design and planning stage, so well on their way. And at the same time, evaluations are being carried out in King Street, in East Grinstead, and Haywards Road in Haywards Heath. In the meantime, preparatory work, as you know, has been ongoing and is now complete on the on-street residential charger installations. And those are at Grove Road in Burgess Hill and Priory Way in Haywards Heath. And both are anticipated to go live in February. On the other side of parking, the really good news is that our pay and display parking income has been above target against our year-to-date profile, and also that the cashless payments continue to increase. They're now 65%. As I reported before, of course, our season ticket uptake still not recovered to pre-COVID, but it is beginning to increase. And with the Christmas holidays now over, we do hope to see that will grow. As you all know, the annual parking strategy will be brought to scrutiny in March. That's it on parking. Before it goes completely, visits to our leisure centres continue, although, of course, there was a bit of a dip over Christmas because it was quite a long Christmas. But as the contract, visits in December, up to December, total nearly 92,000. So that's 80% of what it was versus in December 2019. So that's pretty good, much better than Eurostar. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Before I completely disappear, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. I have no questions. You'll be glad to know, Councillor Demir. So I'm going to ask the Cabinet Member for Planning, Councillor Salisbury, to issue his report.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to start by disagreeing with my colleague, Councillor Hillier, when he talks about the expertise in highways residing in various places. He's clearly unaware of the shift in qualifications that's taken place amongst the community. Because over the last many months, I don't think I've met anybody who doesn't expose themselves to expertise in highways matters and have given me the benefit of their understanding in volume. Thank you. I'd like to turn to some small but good news items. Very often you see things going on and reports, and so you'll get an S106 site that's developed, and you say, very good, and you know, particularly if it's in your area. But some of them have real impact on people. So I'd just like to pick up one for you, which is Denison Court in East Grinstead, which I'm sure those in the area will be familiar with. This is a development of 27 houses, which the S106 required 8 affordable homes. Mid Sussex, in partnership with Rent Plus UK, took on the 8 affordable homes. And they are a mixture of, obviously, well, they would have been a mixture normally of rental and part ownership. But this one, Rental Plus UK, have given the tenants the right to buy their homes after 5, 10, 15 or 20 years. Now, you've probably heard of this scheme that the government launched some while ago. So there's one that we've actually put in place. And they will be paying rental for the first 5 years, and then they get the option to buy. But the really good news is that Rent Plus then give them 10% of the value of their home at that time to be able to put towards the reduction of the open market mortgage, which they'll have to take up to purchase the houses. There are 100 applicants went for it, and 6 of the properties have been allocated to applicants living in social housing in Mid Sussex, and the other 2 to people off the Common Housing Register. And that's a really good news story, because if you think about it, it's not just
8 affordable homes coming forward, it's releasing another 6 social houses. So there are 14 families that can benefit from that. Another bigger piece of good news is that between April the 1st and December the 31st, 22, we put onto our social housing books 277 affordable homes in that period. 27% shared ownership and 77% to rent. Moving away from that, even more good news. Horsted Keynes, the neighbourhood plan has now been through examination and will go to Cabinet on the 6th of February for approval to go to referendum. And with the completion of that, when it goes through, that means that all 20 towns and parishes in Mid Sussex will now have a neighbourhood plan. Something that is in the background, but people haven't really spoken about for a while, but the Bluebell Railway, the planning application for the extension from Horsted Keynes to Ardinglau is now in this building. So it looks as though that the progress is starting to emerge on that. A small thing, but something that helps residents, you'll find now that all of the neighbourhood letters for planning applications, and indeed the site notices, just a little thing, but they've all got a QR code on, and if you scan it, it takes you straight to the documentation instead of having to go through that sort of mile-long process of getting into the planning portal. Development management performance, as I've reported before, as far as I'm concerned, it's in the exceptional category. They're still hitting all of the 8 and 13-week targets, despite all the difficulties that we've been through. And fees are running 6% below last year, but we're 8% above budget. So that's something nice to know. And with that, I'll say, oh no, there's one other thing. We've got a scrutiny committee coming up in March, March 15th, and at it, all of those questions that you've had about water, you'll be able to hear about and challenge the water companies, because both South East Water and Southern Water are sending representatives to present at that scrutiny committee. And I think that's something that we've longed for a long while, and at long last it's happening. With that, I'll take questions. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Salisbury. Councillor Rex Whittaker, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. Can I ask Councillor Salisbury whether any substantive progress has been made with bringing Surrey County Council and West Sussex County Council Highways Department together to agree a technical solution to the overcapacity junctions in Felbridge, which are crucial for the delivery of large allocated sites SA19 and SA20?
Councillor Salisbury.
Thank you, Councillor, for that question, which is one that you have been working very hard on, I know, and I'm pleased to say that, yes, there is some substantive movement, that the whole group are coming together, not just the 2 county councils, but indeed district councils as well. And if you like, we can provide you with the detail of how that's being moved forward outside this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Henwood.
Oh, thank you. Councillor, you were kind enough to talk about the 8 affordable housing at a site at East Grinstead. Sorry, I was supposed to talk to you, etc. How does this work? Out of the 8, if Mr. and Mrs. Smith buy one, they bought it. Does that mean we have only 7 affordable houses left out of that scheme? Please, if you could clarify, I don't understand how it works.
Councillor Salisbury.
Yes, well, the whole scheme is up for the individuals to buy. They apply for it. It's quite different to the normal affordable housing scheme. So they apply for these sites. When they get them, they pay rental for the first 5 years, and then they move on from that to a purchase which they will decide at the point that they have applied for the house. So they have to decide on which date they will purchase the house, and then they have to take out a market mortgage to do it. So it doesn't diminish. Well, yes, if it was affordable housing that we wanted to keep within our own ownership, that's one thing. But this isn't. This is a separate government scheme which we have put ourselves into with that group.
Thank you, Councillor Salisbury. Councillor Eggleston, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Just a quickie. The scrutiny committee on the 15th of March, will that include the review of the responses to the updated district plan.
Councillor Salisbury?
As far as the planning part of it is concerned, the water is important, of course, but yes, it will be the paper which reports on the consultation.
Councillor Brown, I believe you have a question.
Thank you, Chairman. Excuse me, Councillor Salisbury, I didn't hear the site that you were mentioning about this impactful housing allocation. Could you just repeat it again?
Yes, Councillor, it's in Felbridge on the Copthorne Road. It was a development of 27 houses that got planning permission in 2016.
Thank you. I'm now going to move on to the Cabinet Member for Housing and Customer Services, Councillor Cromie.
In the Christmas period, the Comms and Community Engagement team focused on the Christmas events in Burgess Hill, such as the free ice rink and festive family activities. Just shy of 1,000 people were attracted to the town for those events. We've launched our Pop to the Shops campaign last year and saw very high levels of engagement, so we'll continue to promote this in tandem with our economic development team to continue to support local businesses. We're focusing on promoting the discounted memberships at our leisure centres at the moment for all those residents enthusiastically embracing their New Year's resolutions, so please do share that widely to help people save some money. I'd also like to bring your attention to our bulky waste graphics. The council will pick up bulky waste items for residents for just for as little as £22, so please do share that so residents know about that. Moving to housing, I have another positive update that the numbers in temporary accommodation continue to fall, with 62 people now in temporary accommodation at the end of December. We've enacted our severe weather emergency protocol on Monday the 16th of January, and that protects rough sleepers from extreme cold weather, and this week we accommodated 5 people. Just before Christmas, Councillor Webster and I met with Turning Tides in 2 of their properties in Burgess Hill and East Grinstead. I was honoured to have met the amazing staff there and hear about their experiences working in the sector and some of the challenges they face. I was also thankful to have spoken to the residents there and heard their stories and how Turning Tides had helped and supported them. So I'd like to thank Turning Tides and the residents for their kindness in inviting us and giving us the opportunity to hear firsthand how valuable this support is in our communities. Moving to customer services, I've met with the relevant director to discuss the out-of-hours service, and the council have agreed to new resourcing options from the contractor for the out-of-hours service to provide more effective coverage and an improved experience for customers. The service is improving following a new performance-related meeting with the supplier, and this will continue to be monitored. And finally, there will be an online armed forces awareness training that's taking place for councillors and staff. You should have had an email about that today. Based on the 2021 census figures, West Sussex has 31,863 veterans, and 4,673 of those are based in Mid Sussex alone. So we hope that the training will help us support those living locally. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cromie. I'm now moving on to item 11, questions from members pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 10.2. I have one question received from Councillor Eggleston.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This question is in 3 parts. So please could the Leader of the Council confirm the amount spent on consultancy fees in respect to the preparation and submission of A, the 2021 Levelling Up Fund bid, B, the 2022 Levelling Up Fund bid, and C, the bid to create 2 investment zones in Burgess Hill. Thank you.
Councillor Ash-Edwards, would you respond to Councillor Eggleston, please?
Thank you, Chairman. As I said earlier, the Council will take all appropriate opportunities to bid for funding where it is available in order to try and secure inward investment into our district. And we have a good track record of doing so over the last few years. The specific consultancy costs are as follows. For LUF 1, £11,050. For LUF 2, £9,066.84. And for the investment zones, consulting costs to this council were zero. And the context, Chairman, as I'll just remind members, is that we were trying to secure £18 million of investment into the district.
Thank you, Councillor Ash Edwards. Do you wish to ask a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. It was, there was no hidden agenda in the question, I can assure you. It was just a request for information and to get it into the public domain. I mean, this whole process is akin to the local authority equivalent of the Hunger Games. So, you know, with Luff, and some were successful and others not. My supplementary question is related to Luff, but just for clarity, and I accept that you may want to go away and think about this and come back with the answer, but it's been asked a couple of times, and it says, and it relates to the press release, I will shortly call a summit of the key partners so that we can progress Plan B at pace. And the question is, will Burgess Hill Town Council be one of those key partners?
Councillor Ash Edwards, do you wish to respond?
Chairman, I did actually answer that earlier, and I did actually say that I look forward to listening to the views of Burgess Hill Town Council as part of that meeting. To do that, it kind of implies that members of Burgess Hill Town Council would be invited. So I think I have already answered that.
Thank you very much. I am going to close this meeting at 8:25 and ask members to remain in place until the live stream has ended. And thank you all for attending this meeting this evening.